Hello, my name is Benji and welcome to Dice vs Cards. Today we continue our look at Marvel Champions with a deck building guide for Spider-Woman. We'll give you the lowdown and skinny, aka the strengths and weaknesses of the multi-faceted wall crawler, newly minted from the Rise of the Red Skull big box expansion. So as with all Marvel Champions decks, we start with the identity card and go from there. What we see is an alter ego in Jessica. Whoa! She can deck build what? Sweet Marvel Comics, would you look at that? We can take two aspects in our deck for the first time, ladies and gentlemen. My oh my, the possibilities and shenanigans that open up with that type of freedom. For that reason, we're going to be breaking down this guide into two videos. Normally we'd give you an overview of the identity and the signature cards and then segue into a powerful and flavourful deck tech. But this alteration to deck design deserves a little bit more attention. So today's video is going to keep the first part looking at Spider-Woman and her signature cards, but delve more into the guiding principles you might want to apply when building around this sandbox-like character and what it means for your available options. We'll then come back next week with not one, but two deck techs for your eager consumption just to make up for it. Sound fair? Sweet. So we've pretty much covered Jessica Drew, although you'll note that A, you have to choose two aspects, and B, you have to have equal number of each. So whilst that's going to place some constraints on the build, I'm sure it won't be too prohibitive. Spider-Woman comes packed with a not so handsome one of each in terms of stats, but as you can see from her passive ability, you'll be expecting her to be 2, preferably 3 across the board every turn. You'll even stretch it up to 4 on occasion with the aid of her signature cards, which we'll come on to. So with those even stats across the board, I suspect this was a conscious decision to make her as flexible and well-rounded as possible, and that's a good thing. Especially as we're still relatively early in the game's life, and more pertinently, we're still small in terms of available card pool. To get to 3s every turn, it's fair to say we'll need a fairly low resource curve. With a hand size of 5 most of the time, and 6 some of the time, we need to reliably play cards from both chosen aspects, and so 0 to 2 drops are going to be the preference if you're playing her as intended. With that being said, let's take a look at her signature cards and see what deck platform we're working from. Well, firstly, she's packing a suite of cards from each of the 4 aspects: Contaminant Immunity, Inconspicuous, and Venom Blast. All do what you would expect a card from their particular aspect to do, and they all do it well from a cost-benefit perspective. Heal 3 and get tough for protection, remove 3 threat for justice, and do 5 damage for aggression. With it more costing 1 or 2, you're never going to be a sad panda when these are drawn. Leadership's offering Pheromones provides the least value, although comparatively speaking it's still a decent card, and it's best used for that turn before you know you're going to flip back to your alter ego to recover. So as you can see, you could theoretically be buffing Spider-Woman up to 5 for a turn, but that's a separate maths equation. She's rocking 2 of each of these cards, so you'll see them plenty. We then have what I'll call her innate basic cards. Self-Propelled Glide and Captain Marvel bring into focus the amplified benefits she gets when being able to ready herself. Be it for twice in the hero phase, or once in the hero and once in the villain, those buff stats are going to get extra value from being used twice a turn. And Captain Marvel, who when putting aside her vanilla stats brings some worthwhile net economy, providing almost 100% consistency in hitting 2 Spider-Woman activations each turn. Rounding out her signature cards are Jessica Drew's Apartment and Finesse, the former of which makes me want to break out in song, finagling the word synergy in there somewhere. It's just a great card, but with my mood somewhat tempered by the fact that it has to be used in alter ego form. And the latter, well, you know what these resource generating cards do, and I'm glad this here fella should take away the temptation of bringing any of those of the basic variety. It should be very clear already that Spider-Woman does not like basic cards. Well, so far so good. There aren't any obvious weaknesses here. Time will tell how powerful she is, but I can't think of many better ways to have delivered on this design concept. So what does that mean in terms of fundamentals for deck building? Well, for the first time you've got to consider within the same deck how each of the aspects complement each other. Now we have a modicum of knowledge and understanding regarding this every time we have a multiplayer game of Marvel Champions. But do those rules apply within the confines of the same 40 cards? Well, we can certainly use this knowledge to our advantage, and it's another good and welcome reason why her identity and signature cards are so well rounded. Any hint of a preference for a certain game plan would then start to shoehorn her into certain aspects. As things are though, there's very little to suggest one particular aspect combo will be far and away better than another, but I'll touch more on this in next week's video. What I will also say is that there are some principles that you can apply whenever you get to brewing a Spider-Woman deck. Firstly, of course, you need to trim down your basic cards so that you keep that level of consistency in keeping her topped up. Yes, there are a handful of basic staples that you'll find in most decks, but they'll need to work even harder to make the cut this time round. Furthermore, this is an identity that would seem to lend itself to event cards somewhat, because they're A, generally quite low costed, and B, will have a more powerful, immediate and temporary effect that works well with the utility of her even-handed strengths. It should go without saying as well that you'll definitely want to earmark cards that can be played in the hero phase. The reason for that, especially if you accompany it with readying your hero during a turn, is that you'll get the most value out of the improved stats. So there you have it. Remember, I've not touched on aspect cards much at all because I'm saving that for next week. However, that's it for this guide. I do hope you found it helpful. Let me know in the comments how you've been enjoying playing Spider-Woman, and I'll see you next time.